Okay, so quick video for video 6, I believe. So, going to talk about the Krebs cycle, or the also called the citric acid cycle. So I'm going to do this as best from memory. Actually, let me go ahead and get my whiteboard out. As best as memory as possible, because this one is actually going to be a bit hard because I haven't reviewed it in a while. But we start with acetyl coenzyme A. Almost got it instantly. Acetyl coenzyme A, which we can get from a couple different places. We can get that from beta oxidation. We can get that from proteins. We can get that from carbs via glycolysis. But as for that, doesn't matter now. But we get acetyl coenzyme A, which is a 2-carbon molecule that is going into the mitochondria, and I believe, if I remember correctly, it is in the inside of the mitochondria, like the deep inside the center where this happens. Sorry, excuse me. So then we combine that with a 4-carbon molecule. I'm sorry, I am drawing this out as here. 4-carbon molecule to make a 6-carbon molecule. 4-carbon molecule being called oxaloacetate. So then we have oxaloacetate. We are then going, I believe we get, that then becomes citrate or citric acid. Citrate. We are going to use a isomer enzyme to turn that into isocitrate, which is just another 6-carbon molecule, but it's just organized differently. Isocitrate. Then I want to say it is isocitrate dehydrogenase or isocitrate. I don't remember what it's called, but it is a. You know what? I can just look it up real quick. I have the technology. But another enzyme comes in and it takes off one of the carbons. Isocitrate dehydrogenase. Yeah. Yeah, I was right. You know what? I had that. I doubted myself. Dehydrogenase. So then that's going to take off a carbon from the isocitrate, and that carbon is going to eventually bond with the oxygen to make CO2. It's also going to take off a hydrogen molecule to make NADH. The H hydrogen molecule goes into a NAD plus molecule. NAD plus molecule is going to be important for later. But this is what we have so far. I don't know how well you can read it. But after that, we're going to repeat a similar step. I want to say alpha ketoglutamate. I'm not 100% sure what enzyme is next. Like I said, it has been a while since I've been over this, but I want to say it's alpha ketoglutamate, which takes off another carbon, and it takes off to create another CO2. Takes off another hydrogen. Let me just check I'm being correct about this. Yes. Takes off another hydrogen. Blah. Takes off another hydrogen, and we get a 4-carbon molecule, which is like that. Then there's another, I believe. Oh, I got marker on my pen. That's fine. I believe it is succinate at that point. Then we're going to attach an acetyl group to that to make an acetyl succinate. or maybe a succinate. But yeah, acetylsuccinate, and from that acetylsuccinate, we are going to take off. From the succinate, we are going to create a GTP molecule. So because at the end of it becoming, I'm not going to over explain myself and be wrong. So I'm just going to say what I know is correct. It creates a GTP molecule because, like I said, it's been a while. I'm going to use that excuse a lot because it has. I'm trying to do this as best from memory, but so now that it is a GTP molecule is taken off, was gained. That GTP is almost analogous to an ATP molecule. There is another step that requires the conversion from a GTP to an ATP. I do believe it was the liver can use GTP directly, but again, I'm not 100% sure. But the GTP is essentially analogous to an ATP molecule. The only difference is a ATP molecule has the nucleotide adenosine. GTP has the nucleotide guanine to create a part of the structure of the molecule. So after we gain the GTP, we gain the GTP by combining a phosphate and a GDP. So then we're going to bring that down again. Move it over here. We still have a 4-carbon molecule. We're going to remove a FAD. Oh no. We're going to gain a FADH molecule by removing a hydrogen from it and adding that hydrogen to a FAD molecule. So we get a FADH2 molecule, or I forget what it's actually called, but a FADH molecule from the 4-carbon molecule. Then we're going to bring that up. Oh, I'm sorry. So that's what we have so far. So then we're going to bring that up. Still is a 4-carbon molecule. We have one more NAD come in to create an NADH. And then we are into that original 4-carbon molecule, oxaloacetate. Oxaloacetate. So, let me see. What's a good position for this? Okay, so we got this acetyl coenzyme A up here. I did not label it. That combines with oxaloacetate. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do this reversed using the camera as reference. So then we have a citrate molecule, citric acid. That's going to be isomerized into isocitrate. And then we have an important enzyme here, isocitrate dehydrogenase. This is the... I forget the exact weight-limiting enzyme. Isocitrate dehydrogenase is the weight-limiting enzyme. This enzyme, This enzyme is what limits the rest of the cycle from continuing. So if this cycle is going to have a stopping point, if the cycle for whatever reason needs to stop, it's going to stop here with this molecule. It will not go further than this molecule if this cycle has to stop for whatever reason. For instance, let's say there's not enough of an enzyme down here, where the acetyl group comes off and it uses that energy to bind a guanine diphosphate and a normal phosphate together to make GTP. I believe that's what happens there. Is we attach an acetyl group and then detach the acetyl group, and the energy that comes from that is what gives us the GTP, is what supplies us with the energy to create the GTP. But anyways, so let's say that enzyme, we don't have enough of that enzyme. It won't stop at this. Sorry, it won't stop here. It would actually stop up here, because once we run out of the enzyme in this step, I don't know the exact pathway that goes through it. I'm sure I knew it at one point. Basically, because it can't continue any further here, it sends a signal up at this point in the cycle to stop it at this point in the cycle. So this is basically Krebs cycle. Let's add up everything we get. So from one acetyl coenzyme A, we have 2 CO2s, 3 NADH, 1 FADH, 2, and 1 GTP, which is analogous to an ATP molecule. So that's what we have from 1 ton of the Krebs cycle. However, in the previous video we talked about glycolysis, and in glycolysis we get pyruvate as the ending molecule, or lactate, but we get pyruvate, and we put pyruvate through a thing called pyruvate oxidation, which I don't know if I talked about it last video, but it's basically turning the 3-carbon molecule of pyruvate into acetyl coenzyme A by chunking off one of those carbons and attaching an acetyl group to make acetyl coenzyme A. Really simple. Well, I don't want to say it's really simple, but it is an important formality, if that makes sense. Like, it needs to happen, but it's not that significant in terms of amount of steps. It's legitimately, I believe, a 3-step process to turn pyruvate to acetyl coenzyme A. But there's multiple ways for acetyl coenzyme A to be created. But anyways, I'm getting off at a tangent. My point was, from glycolysis you get 2 pyruvates. From the 2 pyruvates you get 2 acetyl coenzymes A's. From the 2 acetyl coenzymes A's, you would double all of these numbers. And so for 1 glucose molecule, you actually, going to create 4 carbon dioxides from the Krebs cycle. That's important because during pyruvate oxidation you do create a carbon dioxide. But again, we're talking about Krebs cycle here. So from Krebs cycle you get 4 carbon dioxides, 6 NADH, 2 FADH2s, and 2 ATPs. So the next step in all of this, the next step in energy cycles, energy production, would be the electron transport chain. That's where we're going to take these 2 molecules and we're going to do stuff with them. Instead of just creating them, we're going to expend them. So, I'll just put one last look of this on here, and then, yeah, that should be... I just did the explaining. I did not even talk about how this relates to my workout. But this does relate to my workout, because today I went for a nice 2-mile... no, was it 2 mile? I think it was like just under 2 mile. 2 mile jog today. And so during that 2 mile jog, I started off at, I say a 2 mile jog, it was not a full jog the entire way. I took a break halfway between, but I digress. So during that 2 mile jog, I started off with the phosphocreatine system, transitioned into the glycolysis system, and then once I finally got to a point where I was like, okay, glycolysis cannot sustain this work rate. I need more ATP. Well, glycolysis can sustain this work rate, but it cannot do so efficiently. I need to do it more efficiently to maintain this work rate. That's where the Krebs cycle and its partner, the electron transport chain, come in, because both of those are much more efficient at creating ATP than glycolysis alone. And so they are what are able to enable. They enable me to have they enable me to maintain my work rate during the 2-mile jog that glycolysis couldn't, and that phosphocreatine couldn't. Because it takes a lot more time and a lot more exhaustion, or a lot higher of a work rate to outpace those cycles once they ramp up to meet the work rate. Because basically what happens is phosphocreatine is the quickest to respond to an elevation in work rate. Then glycolysis would be the second quickest to respond to an elevation in work rate. Then the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain are much slower to ramp up the production of ATP molecules to match the energy demand of an elevated work rate. So, as these two systems ramp up, glycolysis and phosphocreatine kind of stall for time, if that makes sense. That's not the best analogy, but they activate first, they get exhausted first. So it's up to Krebs cycle and electron transport chain to maintain the rest of the energy demands, or to supply the rest of the energy demands. And yeah, so during that 2-mile run jog, glycolysis would not have been able to sustain all of that. However, Krebs cycle and electron transport chain was able to do that. And so, as I transitioned from in time, as time progressed in that jog, I swapped from phosphocreatine to glycolysis to Krebs cycle and ETC as my main ATP suppliers, if that makes sense. So yeah, tomorrow I'll probably do something else. Like, I'll try to find another workout that I can do that's not just a jog again. But tomorrow I should be doing the electron transport chain, which would be a bit faster than this.